Claire Cusack, and we're here at Koelsch Gallery. I have a current exhibit up titled 3, and I'd love to show y'all around. This piece is called Quivers, and those are arrows flying through the sky, and that is a piece of a windmill that has 3 blades. So that's the reference to 3. All these sculptures have something to do with the number 3. I do sculptures out of found objects. It is assemblage. And I use a lot of old things and discarded items that I find on the side of the road. Like these are the bottoms of 55-gallon barrels, and someone had them in a trash pile. And this is a lid to a 5-gallon paint can. An old barbwire and an old shawl from Spain, and wrought iron fence toppers. Actually, they're heavy iron from a fence in New Orleans that went around a cemetery. Then I incorporated a lot of acrylic rods because I like the mixture of the old with the light, and the clear lightness of the glass and acrylic rods gives a lot of light to the old rusty items that I'm drawn to.
And what about this right here?
This is part of a headdress from a nurse's aide from World War I. And then this was here on the top of her head, the cross. And part of the part that protected her hair was here that I sewed behind this old shawl from Spain. So here's a piece made out of an old trash can, which again, these are not really used anymore. We handle our trash differently now. And the new acrylic rods with glass. And these are just pieces of metal I pick up off the street. They're already bent in odd shapes and such, and I love that. So again, 3 baseball bags, first, second, and third base from a World War II Army base out of St. Louis, Missouri. And I just thought it would be cool to do my interpretation of baseball field. This is my vision of the sand as you slide into the bases. Big crystal ball from a chandelier is my interpretation of home base. So it's just nice to give them a new life. Here we have a nice architectural facade, part of a fireplace. And this is some sort of game which actually can be played with. Art is not supposed to be touched, but I thought it would be great, since this is a game, that someone can roll it and see what they got. I got 3, 6, and 1. That's not a winning number. Oh, 4, 5, 6. That's a pretty good one. Oh, and here we have a really nice piece called Paint by Numbers. This is an old surveyor stick, and that's an acrylic box that I made that was filled with all sorts of brushes. Not just paint brushes, but brushes from lots of walks of life, including a couple of handmade ones that who knows what they're for.
Where's the handmade one?
Here's one right here on the side.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very unusual. Those aren't used anymore either. There's a different way that survey is done now. An old cooling element out of a drinking fountain. The inside.
What's this called?
Snap, crackle, pop. It's the Rice Krispie guys. It has a lot of movement and action, and it's turned on. And so that's what those Snap, Crackle, Pop guys are always moving and making noise, and So this is cool. It's got lots of different things. This is an old insulator for wiring for a house, not used anymore. It actually came out of my attic. The top of an oil can, a barn door hinge, an old stand made out of steel. Who knows what it was for? It's so old. There's not much reference to it. This one I just had to make. It just was in me. Had to do it. I love the shadows, so it didn't really have a lot to do with the number 3. So I hid a little 3 right here, so I could put it in the show.
You know, this reminds me of a rain catcher.
Because that's how some of them are made with chain. So yeah, it's an old light fixture. It's called For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I love old chain. I have piles of it in my studio. I just sort of made it to where the acrylic will catch the light, so it's sort of like the light that's been repurposed, but it's not. It's just more of an abstract for your own interpretation. Beacon, which is a source of guidance or inspiration, and the oil wells and the beacon off of a railroad track, and lots of good shadows again, and lights. And
What is this?
glass, probably from, I'm not sure what
From a
There's
decanter?
No, because they're more from a chandelier or a sconce, because they have metal on the end and they had like threaded, they were screwed onto something, so I just have them screwed into the plexi. So they weren't decanter pieces, but I found them loose, so I'm not really sure what they came off of. And this is an old boat cleat. This came out of a trash pile. Who knows what it was? This piece is called 3 Wishes. This is an old christening dress from Brazil. Very nice needlework that is very this is very characteristic of how they do their hand needlework in Brazil. It's different than most other people's. Old sconces from bathrooms. And then I made the candles out of acrylic.
Oh, wow.
So that's like her 3 wishes. An old hanger from Paris. I made the frame out of scrap wood.
And the pencil.
The pencil. That's her pencil. She's starting to write. This piece is called The Third Wheel. And it's probably why I had 3, because I found these in a garage and there was only 3. And I guess if there would have been 4 stroller wheels, then I wouldn't have had the chance to acquire them. It would probably still be on the stroller. And an old piece of a banister, sort of like the inside of the banister. I dismantled it quite a bit. It's made out of oak. And then the new acrylic. This piece also has incredible shadows.
You could trace them on the wall.
You could. This piece is called Windfall. And I'm not really sure what the copper drum piece is. It was used for something, but I don't know what. This is actually the legs of an old stool. It's opened up and it's upside down. And then I kind of put the leather in there so that it looked like it was moving by the wind, because it actually does with just the slightest bit of air. That's just me breathing on it. But even if just an air conditioner was blowing on it, it would be like it was blowing.
It could be like outside or...
It could. This piece is called The Third Eye. And it's all wood and metal and acrylic, and it's an old instrument to work on a car. Not really sure what. It's obviously not used anymore. But it held something you would push it up right up against the car and work on it. And I know this because it's on wheels, and just the way it's constructed, and also it was covered in car grease. It took me about 3 days just to clean it. It has a really nice patina now. This is for pool balls. It's a rack to rack up your pool balls. And I couldn't find a smaller triangle just to continue the 3 theme. So I made that. Actually, a friend helped me. We made that, and these are old screws. An insulator off of a high line. Those are the really big ones on the highways. They're not used anymore. It was discarded and replaced with whatever they use now. Nice rock that's from Costa Rica. This piece is great because it moves and you can turn it depending on how you get the light in your space.
So you're working off shadows as well, it seems
Yeah.
like.
Love shadows, always have. So these old knobs I had, and I love how this one says waist. And I just had the idea to hang a little tub under it. It was hard to find the tub, but a friend helped me in Austin, and we finally tracked one down. It was probably a salesman's sample, but I wanted the tub to be smaller than the knob, so it was obviously off scale. And then I made the towel out of a bigger towel, but these were the hand towels a lot of people used in their powder rooms, probably like in the 20s. And I cut it up and sewed it and made it and embroidered the 3 on there instead of an initial. Then we have these lovely freestanding ones over here. This is the 3 Stooges. And it's owed to them because they always did slapstick. And if you gave them paint and brushes to paint a room, there would definitely be paint more places than on the wall. So this is the 3 Stooges, and I grew up with them, so I was thrilled when I got to title a piece after them. Again, great shadows from this, some sort of hot plate, but I love all these dots. This piece is called 3 of a Kind. This is a nice old stand, USA, very heavy steel. And old screwdrivers. And then again, 3 old brushes that were obviously handmade. And I don't know what they were for, or don't even remember how I got them or where. I've just had them in my brush pile in the studio for years. So it's almost like they're part of a tribe. So they're 3 of a kind. The 3 bears. So when I was building this piece, I wanted to do a piece with 3 chairs and call it the 3 bears. And then I decided to put it on the book. And I have a book pile in my studio because I love using books in my sculptures. And this book just happened to be blank on the side. So I wrote the 3 bears on the side, and I Googled it, and it was written in 1837. And so I thought that was awesome. I had a blank book that didn't have a title on it.
It actually looks original.
Thank you.
Of course, what do I know? Okay.
Well, that would be a very long version of the 3 bears. It's a very thick book. It's not a very long story. Let's go around this way. Okay, the small room here in the gallery is not really part of the 3 show, but I'll show you these. This is an older piece of mine. It's called Preaching to the Choir. It's the inside of a pipe organ that's operated by the pedals, and it's just part of the very inside. It's turned upside down. So these are like people singing. It's like a choir. And then these are prayer books that I sewed the little strap on, the book straps.
Did you make the book straps?
Yes. I sewed them just out of some cotton twill, and then these are the old buckles made out of mother of pearl. So here I have a couple of lovely pieces made out of ship rope off of the large ships. And this one's called a triple crown. It reminds me of the wreaths that go around the horses' necks when they win. Or this is like a horse's mane. This is their prize, a little bit of bling. It's an old harness or for something. I'm not sure what. Maybe it was from a boat. And new acrylic. Part of the chain pile out of the studio. Pieces, a couple different pieces put together. Here's another rope piece. I've done 2 of these now. And I'm looking for more ship rope, but it's really hard to find. This one's called Break a Leg. And that's why it's in a horseshoe shape. And so it's for good luck. Old chain. This is one of my favorite chains I've ever found. It's handmade, and same with this hook. It's also handmade, very heavy steel, both of them. So I have a hook pile and a chain pile in my studio, and when I decided to use my favorite chain on here, I said, well, I might as well use my favorite hook. So those are like my 2 favorites I've ever had.
How do you clean them up?
I scrape them with a steel brush and knock off a lot of rust, and then I spray them.
Power wash?
I spray them with the power washing is just the steel wool will get all the loose dirt and loose rust off, and then I spray them with a clear polyurethane.
Like a varnish?
Yeah. It keeps them from rusting more, and there's no rust when you touch them.
Mm-hmm.
They're very preserved. These are works on paper. This series is called Flyway, and that is the path of the migrating birds. It's called the Flyway, and then they're numbered. So this is my version of the bird's eye view of the Earth. They have a lot of topographical reference to them. And this is the medals, or what I call my street medals. I find them in the streets in different papers, and there's a pair of old work gloves I've cut up and have incorporated them. They were used, and they were white leather, but these are all hand sewn. There's no glue used in them. This piece here, this little piece here, was found in the street of New Orleans after Katrina. And some of them are barbed wire that I get from my ranch, but most of them are all from the street, and they're already bent so beautifully and have so much movement and motion. There's one more over here. This is a nice clump of metal that was in the street. Got quite abused, and I love how it got like it did. Nice bends. I have some book sculptures over here. They're not part of the 3 show, but just to show you, these are made out of old books that are in such bad shape that I really don't feel bad binding them and turning them into art, because they are falling apart so horribly. But I wrap metal around them, and to where they are just completely, well, that's sealed. You can't open it, and it's all wired together. And I add the series is called Reading in the Light, and I love mixing the old leather or book materials with the metal, and then a little bit of crystal. It's just so, again, you have that lightness that comes through.
Well, they sort of remind me of something sacred inside, like a prayer.
Yeah.
You know, like in the Jewish religion, they have a mezuzah that they have on the doorways you come in.
Right.
And there's a prayer that lives inside, but you don't take it out or anything.
Right. So that's you can make it what you want. It's in there for your pleasure. I like that.
And then you have one more over. Oh, but then you have these cards that you've made that are just.
Yeah, the
lovely.
cards are sort of small versions of the works on paper. They're all hand done and hand sewn. There's no glue.
And these could be given as a card as well as used to be framed later on.
Yes.
Or even just set in a little easel.
Yes, a lot of people will buy these and just frame them. But if you do buy them as a card, this is the whole gift. Like, you don't have to give someone else a gift as well. It's a small piece of art. Here's one example of another series I started many, many years ago. Probably 12, 15 years ago. It's called Cleanse, and they're all numbered, and I've done like 49 of them now. But they're made out of the old soap dishes and cup holders and toothbrush holders from the bathrooms that aren't used anymore and get discarded after they're remodeled, and the old ceramic. I mostly use the soap dishes, but it's called Cleanse because I was traveling in Costa Rica and I stopped at this truck stop to go to the bathroom, and it was out in the middle of the jungle. We literally were out in the middle of nowhere, real close to the Honduras border, and the bathroom had a dirt floor and only a door that was half your body height, and the sink was outside. And I went to wash my hands afterwards, and the soap that was in the soap holder looked like it had been there for 30 years. And I was like, is it better to cleanse or not to cleanse? So I got this idea to do this series called Cleanse, and there's usually a cross incorporated, because if you do go out and have a wild weekend, you can always go to church on Sunday and then cleanse yourself. So it's sort of that's my homage to prayer and forgiveness. So I'm so glad you could come and see, especially the 3 show. This is a couple of years of work, and it was really fun. I started making these sculptures, and after I was already making a couple for this show, I realized I was already incorporating the number 3. So I ran with it, and I started looking around my studio going, I have so many items that refer to the number 3. So it kind of just evolved, and I was just making pieces, not even knowing what I was going to title this show yet, or I was just working towards the new work, and it just sort of fell into place that way. So that's why the show is 3. Thanks so much for coming.